I've been getting a lot of requests lately to do another Minecraft-focused video, which I was definitely happy to do. I considered doing a third round of my Minecraft MOBS as FantasyMonsters episode, but I've been really leaning into monster, creature, and beast designs in the last little while, and wanted to dip a little bit more into superheroes and more human kinds of characters. So, for my latest attempt at tackling another Minecraft topic, I figured I'd go with a PopCross classic, taking something, turning them into superheroes. Of course, this time using Minecraft mobs that I've never used on the channel before. Definitely gonna be a fun one, so let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. The bustling city of Craftopolis is one of the most innovative and advanced places on Earth. What was once a small mining town has grown over the last century to attract some of the greatest engineering and architectural minds on the planet. You can't turn a corner without passing someone with $1 million idea firing around their mind. It's become an incredibly wealthy city due to all the miraculous creations to come out of its citizens. But, of course, a plethora of wealth has also attracted more than a few cunning and despicable villains, always seeking to steal technology, money, or ideas to use for their own nefarious purposes. Luckily, the city also has no shortage of heroes determined to protect the innocent. Some were born with their abilities, some utilize technology to give them strength, and some gain their powers through unexpected incidents. One to get their abilities this way is the city's newest hero, just making her debut, Allay. Allay had been studying the inherent frequency of all materials and beings in the hope of creating a device that could locate more of anything placed inside it. So if you placed a lump of gold in it, the device could locate any gold within 100 miles and lead you to it. See, Allay had always been an obsessive treasure hunter when she wasn't working, and she wanted a way to find anything she, or anyone else, was looking for. And despite being barely out of high school, she was confident that she was capable of creating a device to help her with such a task. One night, when she felt she was incredibly close to completing it, she was dancing around her lab, singing along to the music she always blasted while working, and something went not wrong, but certainly awry. Putting the final wires into place, the machine started to spark and whir. Allay hadn't turned it on, but it was like it was acting on its own. She'd unknowingly been tapping into the frequency of an energy stream well beyond anything a mortal should have access to. The device's malfunctioning intensified, and everything in the room began to glow blue. In a fluorescent flash, Allay and everything else in the room was sucked right towards the device, and in that moment, Allay blacked out. When she came to, the room looked as though a bull had torn through it. Her device was destroyed, and something was very different about her. Her skin and hair had turned blue, but beyond that, everything around her looked slightly different. It was as though, beyond seeing the physical reality around her, she could see a faint light of the energy inside everyone and everything. Though she had no idea how to explain what had occurred in her lab that night, Allay soon found that she had given herself the abilities she'd hoped to give her device. If she held an object, she could feel the frequency of it, and sense everything with that same combination of frequencies anywhere around her. This could range from anything from an apple to a rocket launcher. On top of that, she eventually found that the frequency of her own singing activated something in her and caused her to spawn glowing wings from her back that allowed her to fly at rapid speeds towards whatever object she was targeting. It wasn't the most powerful set of abilities around, but Allay was determined to further study her abilities to discover how exactly she'd caused them to manifest, while also using them to help those in need in whatever way she could. Now, when Allay first stepped into the superhero game, she quickly found there were a lot of unexpected obstacles. For one, she had to have an uncomfortable conversation with some agents from the Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation to register her abilities with them. She didn't at all like the vibes she got from those people, but would soon forget about the Foundation after going out on her first patrol, where she had an unpleasant interaction with a hero she was only vaguely aware of at the time, called Warden. While Allay had been eager to team up with some other heroes, Warden clearly expressed his disinterest in being around her, as her singing to stay afloat interfered with his abilities. See, Warden was blind and relied on his hearing and vibrations of the world around him to sense where foes may be lurking. Something about Allay's singing seriously scrambled the sound waves around her and meant Warden's inherent internal radar went haywire when she was nearby. She vowed to stay out of his area for some time, but immediately after meeting him, looked more into what was public knowledge of his abilities, as she thought there must be some way her powers and his could complement each other on a mission. He too was relatively new to the hero game, but had certainly made a splash. Villains had quickly ousted the fact that he was blind, thinking this would give others an edge at beating him, but Warden couldn't care less that people knew. Villains could often get a single strike in on him before he was aware of their presence, but Warden was incredibly durable, as well as having a very sturdy supersuit, and being struck actually helps him locate where his foe is. On top of that, once his body experiences some kind of strong physical impact, whether that be a punch or a bullet, the energy from that blow reverberates through his body and actually makes him faster and stronger. Much of the time, that first hit is all an opponent will get on him before he reaches and incapacitates them. The authorities will often go to Warden for help, seeking out gangs and villains meeting and hiding out in the intricate cave systems under the city, from back when it was a mining town. He thrives in the underground as there is less noise from the city, and he can more accurately target foes from a distance. Of course, there is some hesitancy to work with him, as Warden can be a very violent hero, often taking his brawls too far and hurting foes more than he needs to get them in cuffs. Allay was intrigued by what she read on Warden, but he was far from the most interesting hero she'd come across in her first weeks of heroing. The next hero Allay came across was one who was never difficult to notice when he was out doing his thing. Calling Ravager a tank would practically be an insult. He was more like a rampaging mass of unstoppable metal and might. Anytime a team of heroes was in need of someone to help on a particularly dangerous raid on a group of villains, they'd almost always go to Ravager for help. He's a 10-foot tall steel-plated beast of a man who doesn't say much but is always willing to help. If that help includes smashing things, that is. At full speed, he can plow his way through any obstacle, and he's essentially a damage sponge, able to take rocket blasts and ion cannon bolts without losing any momentum. On the rare occasion when foes have managed to brutalize him enough to actually cause some harm, he's only gotten stronger and more fierce. While he isn't particularly vocal, Ravager does have an incredible battle cry that is amplified through his suit. It can be so loud and intimidating that it stuns nearby enemies, but at times has also startled his allies. Nobody is completely clear on where Ravager got his abilities. It's possible they come completely from his suit, but to fit into that armor, realistically he'd have to be at least 9 feet tall and unnaturally broad and muscular already. In rare occasions when he has spoken about the origins of his armor, he's mentioned getting it tuned up out of town by a mech designer based in Boston, but beyond that, very little is known about his ability origins. Regardless, he's proven to be a massive asset in raids against the toughest of villain groups in Craftopolis. He's even stormed into villain bases with other heroes riding on his back, firing projectiles at distant foes while Raid tears through the melee-focused villains. Of course, like Warden, Ravager is not one to go easy on his foes, but in his case it's more so because he's just so inherently strong that it's difficult for him to hit a villain and not do significant damage. He's not a malicious hero and is generally regarded as being pleasant to work with. Other heroes have even admitted, due to his incredible size and speed, they've accidentally hit him multiple times on raids, and he's simply shrugged it off and not held it against them. Because Allay's abilities are far from combat-focused, she doesn't see much opportunity to work with Ravager on similar missions, but still, she appreciates his ability and will always keep him in mind if she finds herself in need of assistance from a particularly durable hero. Now, often when you want to become good at something, whether that be a sport or drawing or being a superhero, a good tactic is to watch someone who's been at it for a very long time with much success doing that same thing, to study their tactics and see what it is they're doing so well. With this in mind, Allay quickly sought out a hero who'd been one of the very originals to fight crime in Craftopolis, Brightblaze. Brightblaze had been given her abilities at a young age by her parents, who were members of a notorious group called the Nether Cult. This group studied a dark art often called nether magic, with which they could summon energy from another realm to bring supernatural abilities and entities into this world. Many believed this to be an incredibly dangerous practice, so for years authorities and heroes have sought to bring down the Nether Cult. The cult, of course, deemed they needed defenses against these potential foes. In an attempt to create protectors for the cult's causes, they enacted rituals to give some of their members superhuman abilities. Belle Brighton was one of these people. The nether power she was given allowed her to ignite her entire body in smoky flames and control fire. She also had limited flight abilities that she enhanced by acquiring a jetpack to help with propulsion and speed. She'd been given these powers young and was intended to be trained and raised as a warrior for the cult's causes, but as she was being trained to protect her own people, she soon found that there were many more around her and outside her group that were in need of her help. In her spare time, she began going on patrols of Craftopolis and helping anyone who was in danger. This was incredibly gratifying work for her, but when her parents found out about it, they tried to forbid her from continuing to help those outside the Nether Cult. While she loved her parents and cared for the community she'd grown up in, she also believed her powers were a responsibility to help anyone in need. Tensions grew between her and the cult, and eventually she was cast out of their ranks and denounced by her own parents. This was devastating for Belle, but instead of spiraling, she poured all her attention into helping anyone she could. Burying her anger at being rejected by her community did make her a rather hostile hero, often unleashing her flaming rage on foes, thinking it would sate the sorrow she'd buried. She wasn't the easiest person to work with either, and when Allay approached her to possibly work as her sidekick, Brightblaze immediately refused. But over the next few weeks, Allay kept watching and distantly trailing Blaze, and the two of them would eventually do the odd team-up. Brightblaze's only condition for them working together was that Allay never go after anyone in the Nether Cult. There were certainly some bad people in that group, and Blaze had never gotten over her anger at her parents, but even still, she loved them and wanted only the best for her old community. Allay agreed, eager to finally be making new allies to learn from and work with in Craftopolis, but only time would tell if she'd actually be able to keep her promise to Brightblaze, as the Nether Cult had some big plans up their sleeves for the future of their city and the world. And there we have it, Minecraft mobs as superheroes. Maybe round 1? I'm definitely open to doing a few rounds of this. I mean, SCP Superheroes has gone for like 4 episodes, and I still get lots of requests for more of those. Plus, and this is kind of a side thing, but I really love the background template that I designed for these characters, and I would love to use that more. But I'm also open to lots of other stuff I could do with Minecraft characters or mobs. Let me know in the comments what you want to see, or even not Minecraft-related suggestions. Plus, if you're new to the channel and you want more Minecraft stuff, maybe check out the aforementioned Minecraft Mobs as FantasyMonsters episodes. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending the video on some kind of positive, uplifting thought or idea, which I'm trying to do with all my videos now. And today's is something I'm paraphrasing from a Steve Harvey motivational speech, which is that your survival rate for getting through every single one of your bad days, all of the worst days of your life, is 100%. Every time you've had a terrible day, situation, week, month, you have gotten through it. So if you're going through something tough right now, know that you have what it takes to get through it and become better from going through it. If you focus on what you can learn from the situation, that'll just help you be more resilient, so the next time something rough happens, it won't feel like as much of a bad thing. Hope that's uplifting to someone out there. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I will see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.